Story 1, to put it succinctly, being a phony. Why? Because I hate deceit in all of its forms, especially from those who insult my intelligence with it. Story 2, grooming minors includes inappropriate touching, talking sexually to a minor, attempting to meet with a minor, and similar actions. The respect I had disappeared instantly and will never return. Story 3, I have spent my entire adult life working in male-dominated teams and specialized units. If you cheat on your wife or husband, how am I supposed to trust you with my life? Story 4, being closed-minded, refusing to take in new information and adapt to it infuriates me, especially when the reasoning is poor. Then refusing to take responsibility for the consequences also frustrates me. You can quickly tell who has never matured. Finally, being hurtful to others for no reason. If you fall out of love, end the relationship or try to work on it as a couple. Do not cheat, lie, or manipulate your way out of it. It never works, and you do much more damage to everyone involved than if you had used your words to have a difficult conversation. Story 5. Being a bully, trying to bring other people down to make yourself look better. Avoiding responsibility and not taking accountability. Being racist, homophobic, or misogynistic. Story 6. Being passive-aggressive. I hate when people act fake tough. Or when someone is the most sensitive person in the room, most likely to have a temper tantrum, but they go around pushing other people's buttons. Story 7. Acting out in anger, such as slamming things and yelling at others, is unacceptable. You are an adult and should behave accordingly. I will find it difficult to trust you in the future. It is normal to feel mad or upset, but expressing it in that way around others is inappropriate. Speaking negatively about someone and then acting very friendly when they are present is also problematic. It is acceptable to dislike someone or disagree with their actions, but being rude or insincere undermines your integrity and loyalty to your coworkers. Additionally, dishonesty shows a lack of conviction, empathy, and understanding. Often, we recognize when you are not being truthful. Pretending to be unaware of your mistakes does not deceive us. It only lowers our opinion of you. Story 8. Not staying true to your word. If you tell me you are going to be somewhere or do something and then cancel without warning, I lose respect. Story 9. Being rude to anyone doing a job and trying to make a living, whether they are waitstaff or rideshare drivers, is unacceptable. Story 10. Poor emotional control. Not in the be stoic, be a man, show no emotions way, but rather the blow up, break down, and cry over any minor inconvenience. Crying is something we all do sometimes, but you do not need to cry because you did not get a high score, run screaming 100 feet because a stack of pop fell on you, or start crying because someone would not let you change the communal work Spotify playlist to your personal one. Story 11. I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor will I tolerate anyone who does so. Also, incompetence. You do not have to be able to do everything, but if you are bad at the thing you are supposed to be good at, I do not like you. Story 12. Being rude to service industry workers is unacceptable. If someone treats them poorly, they probably have a superiority complex. Story 13. One of my pet peeves is when someone meets a person for the first time and says they like something, and the other person immediately puts it down instead of saying something like, "Cool. What is your favorite part about it?" For example, "I like hockey." That is stupid. Cool. I think we are done here. Story 14. Trying to pull you into gender-related them versus us conversations is offensive. My girlfriend is my best friend, and you are not. It is offensive to her and to me. Story 15. Putting others down, verbally or physically, especially targeting those who cannot defend themselves to boost your fragile ego, is unacceptable. Story 16. I had a friend who had a really dark side that came out after a relationship ended. I only found out about this because his ex-girlfriend contacted me to ask if I could talk to him. He was constantly harassing her, following her around, basically stalking her and not letting her move on with her life. I was never friends with him after that. Some of the stories were horrific. Story 17. Obviously lying about something they have done wrong, even if it is minor, causes me to instantly lose all respect for that person and not want to know them anymore. Story 18. My boss criticized everyone for missing a meeting, not realizing he forgot to send the invitation. He assumed that 90 people all made a mistake was more likely than him making a mistake. I did not respect him in the first place, but still, he was a very unpleasant person. Story 19. Speaking negatively about people behind their backs is harmful. Even worse is belittling your partner in front of others. That is called abuse. Story 20. You said quickest. And you didn't say it had to be someone you were interested in. I feel like most of these answers are missing one or both of those points. The quickest has to be wearing something stupid or repulsive. Anything hateful would do. A swastika, let's go Brandon, etc. All respect lost without ever having to open their mouth. The reason is that it shows how shallow, self-centered, and tasteless they are to openly advertise those opinions to everyone. Story 21. If you have kids, being a neglectful father is unacceptable. This includes those who abandon or abuse their children. We can all agree those individuals deserve no respect. However, I am referring to fathers who do not put any effort into raising their children. These are the men who go to the bar or play video games for hours after work instead of spending time at home. The ones who drink a beer and take a nap while their significant other runs around trying to keep the household together through chaos, and they do not lift a finger. The ones who cannot be bothered to learn how to change a diaper, prepare a bottle, or swaddle their baby. Whether they live by outdated concepts of gender roles or are essentially immature, these men give fathers everywhere a bad reputation. Show me a father who is well-rested and brags about his hobbies or time spent outside the house, and I will show you a poor excuse for a father whose children barely know him and whose wife is on the verge of a breakdown. Story 22. Not communicating in a relationship and letting it slowly fade while you question what is happening can be very distressing. If you have experienced this, you know how difficult it is. The level of disrespect shown to you when you think about it is outrageous. Story 23. Not with a partner, but one issue that has come up before is rudeness to staff or people you see as beneath you. Kills all my interest in you. Story 24. Most other things require more time to understand their severity. It takes less than a second for a weak handshake to make me despise the person. Story 25. Disregarding people is a broad statement because it can refer to a father ignoring his daughter's invitation to do something together, a wealthy person walking past someone in need, or a girlfriend ignoring her boyfriend's feelings. Disregarding another person's existence or the state of their life is one of the most cowardly and pathetic actions. Story 26. Honesty and integrity were two of the most important values instilled in us as children, and I still hold them in high regard. Story 27. Based on experiences at a couple of different workplaces, I was asked to do a lot of work and later the request was retracted after I had made significant effort. Story 28. By lying, especially when I ask a direct question. If you do not have the integrity to tell the truth, you do not deserve my time. Story 29. Act disingenuously, lie, cheat, steal. Be generally unreliable. It's a cliché, but the saying goes, a man only has his word. If I can't trust you, you are really not worth anything to me. Story 30. Many things. One I recently discovered is someone who is an expert on a topic they first learned about 5 minutes ago. Story 31. Not training their aggressive dogs and blaming others when they hurt children or other dogs. Also smoking. Story 32. Blaming others for your mistakes is unacceptable. I don't care if you make a mistake, but trying to cover it up by passing it along the chain of command is the quickest way for me to lose respect for you and to doubt every decision you make. Story 33. If someone were to theoretically insult me severely, call me all sorts of names such as moron or idiot, show zero respect for me and my beliefs, and consider me one of their worst enemies, then those actions would cause me to immediately lose all respect for them. Story 34. I'm not a man, but I have definitely seen this happen with the men in my life. The fastest way is when they are rude to service workers, such as waiters or cashiers. Story 35. Not a man myself, but I have watched enough male dynamics to know that men who constantly try to outdo everyone in conversations get dismissed quickly. Story 36. Emotionally immature, unable to hold a consistent job, drinks and parties all the time, refuses to take accountability, and has a sense of arrogance. All of these character traits influence how they will treat a woman and how they will carry themselves through life. Story 37. Incompetence or a lack of integrity. Be honest. Honor your word. Be capable at what you do. Do these three things and most men will trust and respect you. Miss any of them and they will not. Story 38. People who claim that ignorance is bliss use it as an excuse for their stupidity and lack of care for the world and its people. Story 39. Refusing to humble yourself in any capacity, no matter what, is harmful. No one is perfect, nor do they exist in isolation. We all hurt and are hurt by others or simply make mistakes in general. If a person who values logic discovers they are wrong but refuses to acknowledge that they spent the last 10 minutes attacking you with incorrect information, how can I respect them? How can I respect someone who refuses to apologize in some way for simply being wrong? I am not saying you should say sorry as an admission of fault, but a simple, "Oh, I was wrong. My bad," would be enough. Instead, there are just attacks like, "Don't embarrass me in public like that again." Story 40. Disrespecting someone or mocking them for your own jokes is different between friends, but otherwise that is just being unkind. Story 41. Probably being unkind to dogs. If you do not like dogs, you and I are not going to get along. In fact, being unkind is unacceptable. Kindness costs nothing. Be nice. Story 42. Lying. If you have to lie to me, first of all, what are you hiding and why? Second, are you really going to insult my intelligence and my character? Once I catch you lying to me, I don't care what it is about. The pattern is there, and it will only get worse over time. It is easy to cut out people like that. Story 43. When I find one or more of the following: lack of respect, lack of accountability, always trying to be right, listening to reply, not to understand, not adding any value, making me feel like I am wasting my time. Story 44. Throwing people under the bus to make yourself look better or pointing out their mistakes to everyone is unacceptable. I have worked with several people like that. They did not actually contribute anything or contributed poorly to the group, but did not hesitate for a second to throw someone else under the bus just to make themselves look better than that person. I think that speaks volumes about the person. Story 45. Openly admit to shameful acts like it is something to be proud of. Cheating, gambling more than he can afford, drinking more than he can handle as a habit. There is more, I am sure, but that is off the top of my head. Story 46. Cheating, lying, men who constantly speak negatively about their partners, being lazy, complaining all the time, always being negative, lacking confidence, engaging in casual relationships, poor sportsmanship. Story 47. Being a pushover, people pleaser, try hard, nice guy, or similar, essentially any behavior where you do not put yourself first. People are not going to respect someone who does not respect themselves. Source: I was that guy for a long time. Story 48. Showing apathy or any kind of cruelty is unacceptable. I do not want people in my life who are rude or hurtful beyond reason. Story 49. Zero accountability includes the inability to admit any wrongdoing. The best friends and loved ones I have had were the ones who stopped themselves in their tracks and said, "I was wrong. I will be better." Or even, "I am sorry." Story 50. If someone lies about something there is no reason to lie about, then there is no telling what else they will do later. Story 51. Lack of accountability. If someone blames the world for everything and does not try to take control of the things in their life they can control, it is unproductive. Complainers are similar. If you have an issue and have not tried to solve it, then why complain? Story 52. Lie to me. I can handle difficult or uncomfortable truths. But when you lie to me, all trust is broken and the likelihood of you earning it back is slim. Story 53. Trying to be an alpha male or an alpha female in any way, shape, or form. We are all just people, and nobody is better than anyone else. I do not have the time or energy to compete with you for dominance. I would rather block you and move on. Check your ego and narcissism at the door. Story 54. From women, woo girls, every woo girl I have met has had very little respect for others. They did not care if they upset people, were not loyal to their friends, let alone partners, and only wanted what was best for themselves. Every interaction was transactional for them, with disregard for others' feelings. For men, this applies to everyone but concerns simply not being honest. I would much rather someone be honest in no uncertain terms, whether it sounds rude or not, than lie just to protect my feelings. You do much more damage by letting me overthink the blatant lie I just observed instead of telling me the truth. Story 55. Refusal or inability to own one's mistakes. People make mistakes. It happens. But own it and learn from it. Story 56. Lying. It is impossible to have a real relationship with a liar. My cousin said that he had saved $100,000 for his kids' college and told them the same, but he finally had to admit that he did not have it. Even then, he lied and said he lost it in the stock market to defend his first lie. I have more examples from my life, but lying, including by politicians and influencers, has become too normalized. Story 57. A coworker was proud of rioting at the Capitol on January 6th. They instantly lost the respect of practically everyone around. Story 58. Being rude to others is unacceptable. You may be kind to me, but if you are rude to a stranger or someone who is less fortunate, I will definitely hold it against you. Story 59. Someone not keeping their word. If you say you are going to do something, do it. Do not show up a day late or a dollar short. As I have gotten older, I find that someone's word is a rarity these days. Sure, things happen. The dog ate your homework, you got a flat tire, you overslept because the alarm did not go off. It is when it becomes a habit that it is a problem. Do not make promises you cannot or have no intention of keeping. Otherwise, lying, cheating, and stealing are unacceptable. Being duplicitous in front of me means you are probably doing the same behind my back. Anyone who spreads mainstream nonsense because they saw it on TikTok or social media generally cannot argue or think about abstract concepts. Talking to a wall is more enlightening. Really? Standard stuff, I suppose. Story 60. When someone is disloyal to their partner, I do not care what the circumstances were or how bad one side has it. You should be able to break up with the person if you are willing to cheat on them. Story 61. Lie to me and you are in the no-fly zone forever. I now cannot trust you to have my best interest in mind the way I have your best interest in mind. You are just looking out for yourself, and I do not keep those kinds of people in my circle. Story 62. If they bully other people for being different. As a man who was bullied by others as a youth, I know the pain and despair they feel. Truth be told, being bullied ultimately led to my never seeking a relationship. Story 63. Lying. There is no reason to lie at all. Even if you were doing something you should not and you just told me about it, I would be okay with it. Nothing good ever comes from lying. Story 64. Making a scene, keeping it together, and judging others. Those who say, I hate cheaters, to me sound like children or trying to impress women. Most likely, they are just arrogant and self-righteous. Story 65. Any form of real selfishness, lying, cheating, stealing, and the way someone treats others generally summarizes how I determine how much I respect someone. Story 66. Someone who has been abusing his wife or children in any form does not deserve to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder that haunts them for life because of the abuse. No one should go through that hell. Story 67. Someone you know is driving aggressively toward you, mock swerving a couple of times while you are walking as a joke. Story 68. When they fail to show respect and basic human decency towards people, especially service workers such as waiters. Story 69. Cheating and lying about anything are unacceptable. Not cleaning up after yourself is also problematic. These are basic expectations. If you cheat on a woman who loves you, then you will betray anyone. Story 70. Honestly, a soft rejection. We're adults. You need to be able to say, I'm just not that into you, without worrying that you've hurt my feelings. I like you, but you don't like me. Okay, am I really going to complain about it? I just have to accept it and move on. You're telling me you have so much going on that you can't commit to one day each week to hang out. But here you are, hanging out with our neighbor friend group every Wednesday watching our bowling league. That's intentional lying. Spare me the nonsense. Just reject me outright. Don't be unclear. I'll still strangely be into you. Story 71. Making an agreement and shaking another man's hand, then going back on your word. I didn't know that I cared that much until a man shook my hand, went back on his word, and I couldn't understand why I never wanted to see him again. Story 72. I have spent far too much time watching, working with, and working under ineffective managers than I am willing to admit. When I hear or see people trying to manage in that way, I instantly know I am dealing with a charlatan. Story 73. There are two ways to lose my respect instantly. The first is to urinate on a public school playground. The second is to shoot a dog. One of these will elicit an immediate and violent response, so tread lightly if you want to test my patience. Story 74. Lazy people do not work for what they want and blame others for their problems. Life isn't fair for anyone, but that does not mean you should not try. Story 75. Insecurity manifesting as bitterness and judgment. Constant need to talk negatively and gossip about people to feel superior. Changing opinions easily. Having no morals, no ethics, no principles to stand for. Saying or doing anything, including lying and enabling bullies to avoid conflict. Bigotry. Story 76. Lie about lying. White lies are common enough that if I take the absolutist stance that it is unacceptable, some people define just misremembering or forgetting as willfully lying, and some people have a panic response where they lie and immediately correct themselves, so I am being very specific. But blatantly lying, then further deceiving to try to avoid getting caught even though they are proven to be lying, is no. Just no. Kind of why I do not date police officers or nurses. Story 77. Disrespecting women, children, and the elderly. Hypermasculine alpha male Andrew Tate nonsense. Always being a yes man or contrarian, playing devil's advocate. Just have your own opinions and stand by them. One-upping. Lack of emotional control, anger issues, throwing tantrums. Story 78. Talk too much, overshare. Anytime I sense a need in someone to keep filling silent space as we hang out, either working or socially with their excessive talking. Story 79. I was looking to make someone a best friend at one point. We connected and everything was great. He put something in my drink as a joke. He went from a potential best friend to a stranger really quick. I guess once you break trust, you lose any respect I have or had for you. Consent is another big one. Most people have mentioned the others. Story 80. Gossiping about things that are clearly not appropriate to discuss. The easiest way to ensure I never talk to them about anything serious again. Story 81. That is easy. Lying. I value truth above all else and hate liars more than anything. I can handle evil people if they are at least transparent about it. Story 82. Changing the way they behave the moment someone else enters the room shows a lack of loyalty and a high degree of insincerity. Story 83. Pimping. That was the whole issue with Andrew Tate. When he first became popular on the internet, I thought he was pretty funny and had decent motivational advice. Then I found out how he made money, and it was basically through being a digital pimp. He lost all credibility in every aspect, and his advice became useless. First, how can you call yourself a symbol of masculinity when you engaged in human trafficking? I thought masculinity was about protecting women, not exploiting them. Second, how can you give advice on making money when you needed to exploit others to make money? It does not make any sense. Story 84. Fake empathy. Giving me hollow words and a superficial amount of concern because it is the right thing to do based on what you have been told, is a quick way to make me despise you. Just another speck of dust in the cosmos. Do not try to play nice and act like you care. Just keep going and do what you have to do. It would not mean a thing if I died the very next day. Nobody really cares that much. Medical professionals especially anger me with that behavior. Story 85. Many have said it. If you do anything that involves abusing a minor, you lose respect. On a smaller scale, if someone is only concerned about themselves, I lose respect. As a man, you are supposed to lift up those around you, whether it be your friends, family, or others. If you only do what concerns you and don't help out others, I don't respect you as a man. The manliest men I know would give you the shirt off their back with no hesitation. It's not about being tough or about the money you have. It's about how you act toward others that earns you respect. Story 86. When an acquaintance, friend, or partner shows through their words and actions that they are more interested in what you provide than who you are. Story 87. Act entitled. Have an OnlyFans account. Interrupt me while I am speaking. Pause a video in the middle of a guitar solo. Story 88. If you are my brother, friend, or whatever you want to call it, there is no reason to lie to me, especially if it is something I am already telling you I know for sure. This shows how little you respect me and demonstrates complete dishonesty and dishonor. Story 89. People who cheat on significant others, people who lie to my face and think I am stupid enough to believe those lies, and men who are immature and make excuses for bad lives or poor life choices. Story 90. Blaming others for their problems and misfortunes. Boasting about sleeping around and talking about women as if they are trophies. Story 91. Entire generations have been misled. Women have the same and sometimes more rights than men. For decades, the gender pay gap has been misunderstood. Women often choose lower-paying fields. They are less likely to be victims of crime. They benefit from educational bias, judicial bias, societal bias, and government funding. Meanwhile, the average man starts working full-time 3 years earlier, retires 3 years later, and dies 5 years sooner. All gaps are widening while feminist movements focus money, resources, and attention on issues that primarily affect women. This approach negatively impacts men. You may disagree, but the facts remain. Story 92. A man who is constantly looking at his phone and scrolling through his social media is not focused. Real men do not have cell phones or any kind of mobile technology. The only things a man should have with him are either a gun, a cigarette, or some type of sword. If you carry around a smartphone, it might as well be a purse. Story 93. For other men, it is probably being weak either mentally or physically. If you cry about everything, claim the world is out to get you, and are essentially useless when asked to help move a washing machine, it is pretty pathetic. For women, I would say this new girl boss attitude. Demanding respect when it is not warranted and thinking people should listen to you just because. It has the opposite effect. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.